Well, the thing I want to talk about is China. Now, floods in China, plagues in China. Why all this now? What's God doing? Now, I mean, China, amongst other countries and places, is getting hammered very badly. Coronavirus, and last year there was the swine flu which killed half the pigs, and then there was the coronavirus supposedly, and we're supposed to double think our way out of imagining that the two things are related. But anyway, the floods in China, record floods. Imperiling the brand new expensive Three Gorges Dam, and if the thing breaks, it's going to flood half of China. Thing is, why would God do this? Now, is it God, people say? Isn't it climate change? The thing is, the book of Revelation talks about these things, and it says that these things will come. Trying to match an order of events with the series of plagues and things, the bowls and the trumpets and the seals, and there's all these attendant miseries. With each of the seven, the series of seven, like 7 trumpets. But the fact is, an interesting thing in the book of Revelation is Jesus says, he tells John, the apostle, to seal up the words of this prophecy. He says, seal up the words of this prophecy. And he says, if anyone adds to this prophecy, God will add to him the plagues described in this book. And if anyone takes away from this prophecy, God will take away his name from the book of life. Now, Jesus also, by the way, talked about how the law and the prophets and the Psalms were what constituted prophecy. Now, we almost have to conclude a general principle of meddling with the text of the Bible, the New Testament at least, and the prophets, and the law and the prophets and the Psalms, meddling with the text deliberately, for whatever reason, doesn't end up in a good place. Now it's to be noted recently, in the past year or two, the Communist Chinese government has been talking about rewriting the Bible to make it conform to the principles of scientific socialism and Chinese tradition or whatever. Now, it is true, as I've discussed in yeah, what do you do? My point being that as I've discussed in a lot of my earlier videos, the fact is people have meddled with the text of the Bible. A lot of people have meddled with the text of the Bible for a very long time. In the 2nd century and following, the Gnostics were famous for chopping out bits of the New Testament and trying to sneak new bits in. And they were famous for saying, well, whenever an Orthodox Christian would look at one of their Bibles and compare it to an Orthodox Bible, they would say, hey, you've just taken all these pieces out. And the Orthodox, the Gnostics would say, well, no, you just put that in. And they conjured up this imposture where they had the original and the Orthodox Church had doctored fakes. Now, it is to be noted that that is largely the position of textual criticism. There's the fundamental theory of textual criticism and the New Testament these days is that over the centuries, the church, the Orthodox Church, well, the Catholic Church up until 1500, but the church, basically harmonized and enforced a theological homogeneity onto onto the Bible text, and suppressed earlier readings. So basically, there's people who believe in the Textus Receptus, the original Textus Receptus, substantially the same as that published by Erasmus and Stephanus. And there's these later ones, but the point being that the arguments of the Gnostics versus the Orthodox are almost precisely the same as the defenders of the traditional text in our day and the modern critics. But anyway, there are terrible things coming on the earth this year and last year and next year, and they're not going to stop. And the book of Revelation again says about Babylon, the fall of Babylon. It says, all your plagues are come in 1 hour. Now, all your plagues are come in 1 hour. which like in the book of Revelation and in Leviticus 28, 29, and in Deuteronomy, and in Exodus, and in like the book of Kings, and talking about the days of Elijah, there's a sense of plagues being in a cycle, or they've been in a stage series. I mean, famously, there's the series of plagues on the Egyptians, orchestrated by Moses. When he, said, "Let my people go," and there was a series of plagues on Egypt, locusts and the river turned to blood, and plague of frogs, and all those things. But there was a staged series of plagues. And at points in the book of Revelation, it says men cursed God because of the plagues, but they would not give up their adulteries and murders and thefts. So God kept on inventing more plagues to curse them with. But right now we've got this series of plagues. Say, take China. Last year all the pigs died. In the winter along came coronavirus. Wiped out how many, no one knows, no one's saying. This year in the summer along comes the monsoons, record floods, wipes out all their crops. And who's to know, maybe there's locusts coming later this year or next year. One can only guess. Well, I mean, there's locusts all over the world right now. I mean, the Premier of China has started forcing Christians to replace crosses in their church meetings, and I mean, replace crosses with portraits of himself, I mean the Premier of China or Chairman Mao. Now, this appalling blasphemy, well, it's attended by these threats that the Chinese communists are making against Christians to cut off their state-funded welfare if they don't cooperate with this this silly circus. But I mean, Jesus is Lord. He is King of Kings and Lord of Lords. He is God Most High. The Premier of China doesn't know what he's messing with. And this idea that the Chinese government, Chinese communists have recently come up with of modifying the Bible text. This recent idea they're talking about in the past few years of changing the Bible text to suit the times, scientific socialism or Chinese cultural traditions, or all the usual stuff where they accuse Christians of being agents of a foreign power, and Christianity being nefarious foreign influence. Well, the thing is, these things where, Jesus said, again, that if whoever takes away from these words of prophecy, whoever adds to these words of prophecy, or takes away, God will add to him the plagues mentioned in this book, and God will take away his name out of the book of life. So what the sorts of things that Premier Jiang is talking about don't go to any happy place. Now, sure, people would protest. Why China? The Chinese aren't particularly, the Chinese are wicked, that's true. But they're not more wicked than any other wicked person. Yeah.